travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims. It's day 69 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. Today's show is sponsored by My Saint, My Hero. I've talked a lot about them, and they are a Catholic company that I fully support. I love their jewelry. They have great products. It's all ethically made, and it's just very tastefully done. So if you have birthdays, anniversaries, special holidays coming up, I would definitely check them out. They have something for women, teens, children, and even men. So you can find something for everyone. Please check them out at www.mysaintmyhero.com. Okay, so today we are moving with St. Faustina into a new chapter in her life. We have been reading about how she's been preparing to go to Vilnius, and today she gets there. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, new chapters in our lives and what that means. And she gives us some insight in how we're supposed to approach those types of things. So our readings are from Notebook 1, Numbers 261 through 265. I am already in Vilnius today. A few scattered tiny huts make up the convent. It seems a bit strange to me after the large buildings of Yusupov. There are only 18 sisters here. The house is small, but the community life is more intimate. All the sisters received me very warmly, which was for me a great encouragement to endure the hardships that lay ahead. Sister Justine had even scrubbed the floor in anticipation of my arrival. When I went to benediction, Jesus enlightened me on how I was to conduct myself in respect to certain persons. I clung with all my might to the most sweet heart of Jesus, knowing how much I would be exposed to external distractions because of the work I would be doing here in the garden, where I necessarily would be in close contact with laypersons. The week for confession came, and to my great joy, I saw the priest I had known before coming to Vilnius. That is to say, I had known him by seeing him in a vision. At that moment, I heard these words in my soul: "This is my faithful servant. He will help you to fulfill my will here on earth." Yet, I did not open myself to him as the Lord wished, and for some time I struggled against grace. During each confession, God's grace penetrated me in a very special way. Yet I did not reveal my soul before him, and I had the intention of not going to confession to that priest. After this decision, a terrible anxiety entered my soul. God reproached me severely. When I did lay bare my soul completely to this priest, Jesus poured an ocean of graces into it. Now I understand what it means to be faithful to a particular grace. That one grace draws down a whole series of others. Oh, my Jesus, keep me near to you. See how weak I am? I cannot go a step forward by myself, so you, Jesus, must stand by me constantly, like a mother by a helpless child, and even more so. Days of work, of struggle, and of suffering have begun. Everything continued according to the convent routine. One is always a novice, having to learn many things and to get to know about many things, because although the rule is the same, each house has its own customs, and thus each change is a little novitiate. So, as many of you know, I'm a military spouse. And before that, before I married my husband, I had lived for 22 years in Kansas and had pretty much lived in the Kansas City area my whole life, except for a couple different spots. And so when I married my husband and he was commissioned in the Air Force and we set off on our new, life to Ohio, at first I was really excited, but when we got to Ohio, everything was different. Everything was weird. I didn't know a soul. All my family was back in Kansas. I was missing out on what seemed like everything, all the holidays, except for like Christmas and Thanksgiving. And everything was just so unfamiliar. Now, the good thing about Ohio is it's not that different from Kansas in the type of people and the customs and, just the way people are. The land wasn't too different. So in that regard, it wasn't that different. But it was still a struggle for me. And it was a new chapter in my life. This was the first time I was stepping out of Kansas and going to another state to live. And I told my husband, I said, you're going to do 4 years and get out. I can't live like this. I need to be back in Kansas where everything is familiar. And he sadly was like, okay. Now, here we are almost at 20 years. So he obviously didn't get out. And what I learned through my time in Ohio was that at each stage of our life, there is a chance to grow. And I remember one particular time when I went back home to Kansas, and we had gone back before for Christmas and summer vacation and stuff. And it always was just like, I'm home. And I would just dread going back to Ohio because I was with my people and I knew the place and it was so comfortable and I loved it. But there was one time, I can't remember exactly when it was, I went home and things were just a little off. And it just didn't feel like it quite fit me anymore. And I was so sad. I mean, when we were driving back to Ohio, I was just kind of depressed. And my husband asked me what was wrong, and I was like, this is going to sound weird, but I feel like I don't quite belong there anymore, and I hate saying that. And he's like, well, Amy, he's like, you've just changed a lot. You've grown a lot. You've learned to, make it in a different state and make new friends and learn new things, and all without, the crutch of having your family there. Not that families are bad. I wish my family was around, but he's like, and we've just had to find our way, just the two of us. And I really thought about that. And so reading through Sister Faustina's diary today, she's arrived now at a new place. And she's even describing things are different here for her. This is tiny little huts. There's not that many people here. It's a very small house, but the community is very intimate. People are receiving her warmly, but it's different. And now she's got a different confessor and she doesn't quite know how to feel about that. And she's just feeling like this is a different place. And, it's so interesting how as you go along in your life, you go each step and you move to a new chapter and you sometimes really long for going back to what you had because it's easy, it's comfortable, and it doesn't ask a lot of you. And so for me, with the military life, the next place we moved was Panama City, Florida, which was wildly different than Ohio and Kansas. And that stretched me even a little more because the culture is very different in the panhandle of Florida. The food's different, the way they talk is different, their customs are different, and it was a very, very new experience for me. Ohio was probably a good transition for me, going from Kansas to Ohio, because it wasn't so drastically different, but Florida was huge. And yet what I started to discover was each place had something new to show me. And each place, God had something that he wanted to reveal to me. And each place was a chance for me to grow and become, a little bit more open-minded, or a little more understanding, a little more, just understand different cultures better. And I have to say, I've lived all over the United States, and we have such a wonderful country. I wish people could understand that. But I've moved all over the United States, and now I live in Turkey, and that has been the biggest leap of all, even more going from Kansas to Ohio, because the culture is utterly different. Religion is different. Language is utterly different. Everything is different. And so, it's a good thing we didn't go from Kansas to Turkey, because I probably would have died. I probably would have just died. But what I think Sister Faustina is seeing, though, is that With each step, new graces come. And with each step, God has something to show you. And she even says it in the very last paragraph. She says, yeah, you settle into a routine, but one is always a novice. You have to learn many things. You have to get to know many things. Rules, can sometimes be the same, but each place has its own customs, and each place is a change. And, so often, like I said, we buck against change because it can be really hard. We get really uncomfortable, and it's jarring a lot of the times. And I'm not saying you have to move around the country in order to experience this. This is just my perspective as a military spouse. In all of our pilgrim journeys, Christ is going to move us into the next chapter and move us into another chapter. Maybe he's going to ask something else of us, but we want to go back to where, we're familiar and comfortable. But we can't ever really become who we're meant to be unless God stretches us a little bit and makes us grow. If Sister Faustina stayed at the first place, she wouldn't grow as much as if she was forced out of her comfort zone and moved to the next place and asked to do something else and required to get to know new people. It really stretches us, and God opens our eyes to different people suffering, to different people that aren't like us, to just different experiences, and all those experiences and the meeting of different people and everything help us to grow and become even better because of the growth and the stretch. So, I don't know what's going on in your life. Maybe you are, getting ready to move somewhere, or maybe you're getting ready to start a new job or retire, or maybe a new baby has come into your life and it's a new chapter. With each new chapter, sometimes we can be hesitant. There's fear because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Each time we move in the military, there's a lot of anxiety, but there's a lot of really cool anticipation too, because what's next to see? And what new things can God show me? And that is always kind of thrilling to me now. And I know I'm going to miss that when my husband's military time is over. But there will be new chapters, and God will find new ways to grow and stretch me. And even when we're at new duty stations, he finds other little ways to grow and stretch me. So, just embrace the change. God has something he wants to show you. We can't stay stagnant, or we're never going to blossom into that full person that God has in mind for us. So embrace the change. So that's all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. And we'll see you back here for day 70. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.